Chapter 4, The Choice. The newsroom was never truly quiet, but some days it carried a different kind of energy, lighter, more expectant, as though the whole building was waiting for something to happen. That morning, Leila arrived to find an envelope on her desk. Her name was written across the front in clean, precise handwriting. No return address, no official letterhead, just her name in black ink. She sat down slowly, the weight of the envelope somehow heavier than its size. David leaned over from the next desk, eyebrows raised. Fan mail. Leila ignored him and slid her finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of thick paper, folded neatly. She unfolded it and read. Leila, I have followed your work since our meeting in Auckland. You have an eye for detail and a gift for clarity. New Zealand needs voices like yours, strong, critical, alive with questions. I would be honored to continue our conversations. If you are willing, join me for dinner while I am in Wellington. No interviews, no politics, just two people talking. Markus Vogel. Her pulse quickened as she read the signature. The man whose words she had chased, whose speeches had filled her notebook, was reaching for her now, not as a politician, not as a headline, but as a man. David whistled when she handed him the letter. Wow, you've got a German admirer. Careful, Leila. That sounds like the start of a novel. Leila gave him a sharp look, but her cheeks warmed despite herself. That evening, she stared at the letter again in her apartment. She could still hear Alejandro's music from the night before, soft in her memory like an echo, but the crisp, deliberate words in front of her demanded attention. Markus Vogel wanted her company, not her article, not her analysis. Her. She thought of the last time she had seen him, his calm confidence at the podium, his piercing gaze in the lobby afterward. He had looked at her as if her questions mattered, as if she wasn't just another reporter with a microphone. And now, here was the proof, an invitation not for the world, but for her alone. The letter lay open on her kitchen table long after midnight, while she sat in silence, torn. Dinner with Markus was as polished as she expected. The restaurant was elegant, candlelight flickering on polished glasses and plates arranged like works of art. Markus greeted her warmly, with none of the distance he carried on stage. He asked about her childhood, her path into journalism, her thoughts on New Zealand's future. He listened carefully, nodding as she spoke, responding with insights that made her feel both challenged and understood. You have a sharp mind, Leila, he said, lifting his glass. Too sharp to waste only on reporting. You could shape the conversation, not just record it. She smiled, though uneasily. I'm a journalist, Markus. I don't shape, I observe. He tilted his head, his eyes steady on hers. And yet your words shape more than you admit. People read you. They follow your clarity. Do you not feel the responsibility? Leila hesitated. She had felt responsibility, yes, but always to truth, not to influence. Yet there was something intoxicating in the way Markus said it, as if he could see a future for her she had never dared imagine. By the time they parted, the night air was cool, the stars sharp above the city. Markus took her hand briefly, not as a politician, but as a man reluctant to say goodbye. I hope this is not the last time, he said softly. Leila walked home with her thoughts tangled, her notebook heavy in her bag. 2 nights later, she found herself again at Mateo's restaurant. Alejandro's guitar filled the room, warm and alive, drawing laughter and claps from the tables. She slipped into her usual seat, notebook open, though tonight she struggled to write. When Alejandro finished, he came to sit beside her. His hair was slightly damp from the summer humidity, his smile unguarded. You've been away, he said gently. I had work, she replied, tucking the notebook closer. He looked at her carefully, then leaned his elbows on the table. Did the words make you happy this time? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Instead, she looked down at the page where 2 names had begun to appear again and again, side by side. Markus, Alejandro. Alejandro followed her gaze, his expression unreadable. He didn't ask. Instead, he said quietly, sometimes the hardest story to write is the one we're living. The days blurred. Markus invited her to another dinner, this time less formal, in a quiet hotel suite with a view of the harbor. They sat for hours, talking not of politics but of books, history, and dreams. He told her of his childhood in Germany, of the rivers he grew up near, of the first time he believed he could change the world. "You could be part of that change," he said, his voice low, persuasive. "Not by standing beside me on stage, but by reminding me of truth when others only flatter." It was not a proposal of love, not yet, but it was intimacy of a different kind. Partnership, respect, vision. Leila listened, moved by his honesty. She imagined the life he hinted at, traveling, influencing, shaping. Her words not just in print, but in action. And yet, even as Markus spoke, she found herself hearing the faint strum of strings in her memory, as if Alejandro's music lingered no matter how far she stepped from that restaurant corner. The tension sharpened when Alejandro asked her, one evening, to walk with him by the harbor. The air was cool, the waves restless under the moonlight. "You've been distracted," he said finally. "Your eyes look somewhere else, even when you sit in front of me." Leila stopped walking. She wanted to deny it, but Alejandro's voice carried no accusation, only quiet truth. "I met someone," she admitted. Alejandro nodded slowly. "The politician." Her silence was answer enough. For a long moment, they stood in the silver light, the sound of the sea filling the space between them. Then Alejandro said, "He offers you a world of power. I can only offer you songs. Maybe that is not enough." Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that music meant more than he realized, but the words tangled inside her. She could only whisper, "It's not that simple." Alejandro gave a faint smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "It never is." The choice came to a head one evening when both worlds collided. Markus had invited her to a gala in Wellington, a room filled with leaders, artists, and journalists, the kind of event where connections were currency. The invitation was flattering, dazzling even. She knew the article she could write afterward would be sharp, relevant, powerful. But that same evening, Alejandro had planned a community concert at the center. The children he taught would be performing their first songs in front of their families. He had asked her weeks ago to come, his eyes bright with pride. 2 invitations, 2 doors, 2 lives. Leila stood in her apartment, dressed for the gala, heels in her hand, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She saw the polished professional Markus believed in, a woman who could stand beside power and hold her ground. But when she blinked, she also saw herself sitting in that painted community hall, clapping as small fingers strummed tentative chords, Alejandro smiling in the corner with pride not for himself, but for the children. Her chest ached. The gala was glittering when she arrived, chandeliers casting golden light, Markus waiting at the entrance with his hand extended. He looked at her as if she belonged there, as if the night were theirs to claim. For the first hour, she smiled, she conversed, she listened to speeches and laughter. Markus guided her effortlessly from circle to circle, introducing her as someone with insight and clarity. But her eyes kept drifting to the window, where beyond the city lights the harbor stretched toward the quiet suburb where the community center stood. At one point, Markus leaned close and said, "You are radiant tonight, Leila. This is where you belong." The words warmed her, but they also pressed against something in her chest. She excused herself, stepped outside into the cool night air, and for a long moment she stood between the glitter of the gala and the pull of the sea. Then, with a sudden breath, she turned away from the lights. By the time she reached the community center, the children were already on stage. Their small guitars buzzed and rang, their voices uneven but full of joy. Parents clapped loudly, the room bursting with warmth. Alejandro stood at the side, guiding them with gentle nods, his smile wide and unguarded. When he saw her slip in through the back, his eyes widened in surprise, and then softened, like a melody resolving at last. Leila felt tears prick her eyes as she clapped with the families, her heels clicking awkwardly against the floor, her dress too fine for the humble hall. Yet she had never felt more at home. When the last note rang out, when the applause shook the room, she knew. The story she wanted to live was not in speeches or chandeliers. It was here, in music, in laughter, in connection. Later, as the children ran to their parents and the room filled with chatter, Alejandro walked to her side. He didn't ask where she had been. He didn't ask what choice she had made. He only said softly, "I'm glad you're here." And Leila, at last, allowed herself to smile without hesitation.